Hello everyone, Taylorson here, and welcome to something a little bit different, because I was playing the Tour de France game just by myself, single player, pro leader, casual, doing my thing with Intermarché Wanty, and I think I've just played the most insane stage I have ever played in my life. And it doesn't need too much context because the stage itself is pretty crazy, but for those that want context, here it is. Tadej Pogacar at the moment leads the Tour de France, entering stage 18, which is the Col de la Loze stage of this year's Tour. And the surprise, clearly, is Antonio Tiberi in second place. He's only 13 seconds behind Tadej Pogacar. Pogacar's only recently taken the yellow jersey off him, and Remco Evenepoel is chasing him down for that second spot. He's 36 seconds behind Tadej Pogacar. Jonas Vingegaard has had a crash-laden tour and is 2 minutes and 31 behind, and Roglic rounds out the top 5. That's all you really need to know entering this stage. So Biniam Girmay is in the green jersey, and we have told him to go into the breakaway. He's taken Wout van Aert and Jasper Philipsen with him because those are his two main green jersey contenders. Meanwhile, I'm trying to move up on the right with Van der Horn to get another rider into this particular breakaway, and we do end up getting Van der Horn up the road with Biniam Girmay because we tell him to slack off. But Van der Horn brings plenty of riders with him because across comes the likes of David Gaudu, Joao Almeida, etc, etc. So they're up the road in a group of 16 riders. Wout van Aert has already been dropped, which is very nice indeed, as was Jasper Philipsen. Carlos Rodriguez is somewhere in the middle. He's trying to get across in a chasse patate. But Bahrain Victorious are not happy with this breakaway at all. Joao Almeida is in the move. He's in the top 10 on GC, and that is a threat to Antonio Tiberi, who is having a fantastic Tour de France ahead of this particular stage. So they've decided to send their riders to the front, and while some see crisis, I see an opportunity. The moment that Santiago Buitrago stops, I think this is the best possible point that we can get Georg Zimmermann across to the breakaway. So we attack with Zimmermann, but we need another rider up with him, so Lorenzo Rota is the rider we are going to send up the road with Georg Zimmermann to try and make it to Van der Horn and Girmay and give us 4 riders up front. Giulio Ciccone is attacking to get across, and now Movistar are getting worried because Enric Mas's GC position is being threatened, and they've sent Matthias Nersgaard to the front. Meanwhile, our 2 riders have joined up with one another, and it is now time to try and get Georg Zimmermann across and get him a chance at finishing as high as possible in the stage, but also getting a good GC position. The gap is only 1.5 minutes that we need to close, and Carlos Rodriguez is sat between the 2 groups, and he is going to be very thankful, I think, that Giulio Ciccone is coming up with us in a group of 3. Not only that, but Enric Mas has now attacked. So now Movistar have their guy in the breakaway. He has decided that the best form of defence of his GC is attack, and we send Rota to the front and sit on the back of this group with Georg Zimmermann. Rota does a sterling job at getting us across, but look what's going on behind, because Jonas Vingegaard has perhaps attacked, perhaps just dropped everybody else with his team. Either way, Vingegaard has got a gap on Tadej Pogacar and a couple of the other GC competitors. Remco Evenepoel is there as well, as is Antonio Tiberi. So Pogacar is already on the back foot with 125 kilometres to go. Now at this point in the recording, I was blissfully unaware that any of this had happened, which is why I'm post-commentating it. By the way, if you want more post-commentaries of various Tour de France stages that I do, if you find this interesting at all, A, leave a like on the video, B, subscribe, and C, tell me about it in the comments, because they are relatively easy videos to make, me just post-commenting over a particular stage. Obviously, they won't be as interesting as this one, so bear that in mind. Either way, we make it across to the breakaway. Girmay is in there, Georg Zimmermann's in there, and Lorenzo Rota. So we've now got 3 riders in a leading group of 17. Jonas Vingegaard is now 30 seconds behind us. The yellow jersey of Tadej Pogacar is in a group of 8 with 122 kilometres remaining in the stage, 1 minute behind the leading group and 30 seconds behind Remco. So we've seen that, finally, that Vingegaard and Remco have dropped Tadej Pogacar. and we decide to sit up, wait for Vingegaard because he's got a couple of his Visma Lease-A-Bike minions alongside him, literally minions because they're in yellow, and we just decide you guys are going to take the stage by the scruff of the neck. Intermarché Wanty have nothing to do with this GC battle, so off they go. The gap is 26, 25, 27 seconds. It's holding at that gap, but as you can see, Pogacar is losing riders hand over fist in his particular group. He's in a group of 6. Georg Zimmermann is hanging on to his last riders as Biniam Diomaye gets caught by Pogacar and passed by Pogacar. But Pogacar is now doing it pretty much all himself. He's not got too many teammates. Obviously, he's got Almeida up the road, but he has decided not to wait for his GC leader. So Simon Yates is now pacing, basically, against Tadej Pogacar himself. As we look back, McNulty's been dropped. Nils Pollitt is his last man in this particular break. He gets dropped, as does Florian Lipovic from this leading group, and Jorgensen. But Pogacar is now on his own, 35 seconds behind Jonas Vingegaard, with 117 kilometres to go. I mean, this is absurd. And I'm going, what is happening? And Georg Zimmermann is just a passenger at this point. He has the best seat in the house in the leading group and is doing pretty well to hold on, but his blue energy is disappearing very, very quickly. So we need to kind of go in manual control for a bit, stick on the wheel of Antonio Tiberi, who is another rider that is gaining from Pogacar being dropped. But it looks like Visma Lease-A-Bike are on their last legs. And Pogacar does make it back, but how much energy has the yellow jersey spent is the question. Meanwhile, you can see on the right-hand side, just out of picture, that Geraint Thomas is now going on to the attack. So he is forming a new breakaway, and Thomas is in stellar form, clearly. I've decided not to follow that with Georg Zimmermann, and then I realise that Thomas is getting a very big gap very quickly. So I decide I'm going to attack on the final section of the climb, see if I can take some King of the Mountains points on my quest to make it to the breakaway guys, and gain as much time as possible on the GC guys who are locked in their own battle at this point. So I decide to use the momentum of the end of that descent and go off the front. I take with me David Gaudu, Derek G and Tobias Harland Johannesson, and now we are all chasing Geraint Thomas, who is on his own in the lead of the race. Perhaps blissfully unaware of what's going on behind him, because that seems like how Geraint Thomas is, pretty chilled guy from what I have seen of him. Either way, we're sticking to the back of this group, not pacing because we are on our last legs, but it turns out the rest of this breakaway are also flagging pretty hard, because we come to the front to up the tempo with a kilometre to go. Derek G gets shelled, then David Gaudu is clinging on, Tobias Harland Johannesson has gone, and David Gaudu cannot follow us either. So we are going to take second place over this climb. Can't quite catch Geraint Thomas for maximum points, but this is doing our King of the Mountains jersey hopes no harm whatsoever. 15 points for Georg Zimmermann over the top, but we end up catching Geraint Thomas on the descent, and the breakaway comes back together. Now I'm thinking, okay, this race can calm down for a little bit on the climb, but as you can see, the gap has just totally diminished. It was 2 minutes on the last frame that you saw. Now we've just been reeled in again because Visma Lease-A-Bike are ripping it up this climb as well. We've saved energy by going at our own tempo and not following this absurd pace from the Visma boys, at least for the foot of the climb. So we're in a good position, as is Derek G, as is Geraint Thomas, etc. But these Visma guys are still going for it. They can see weakness in Tadej Pogacar. It's giving Col de Granon vibes, and at the end of the day, they don't drop him, but they put him under real pressure with Matteo Jorgensen, perhaps the MVP of this particular stage. He gets rid of Lipovic. Roglic is now on his own. Ben O'Connor's hanging on. Geraint Thomas is hanging on as well, as are we. We've got less than about a third of our energy remaining in the blue, and we're just going to try and hang on and cling to the rear of this group as much as possible. You will quickly see that we don't get in the wind at all during this particular stage, and it's kind of me being a sweaty gamer, mainly because we've got Georg Zimmermann, who's like 73 rated in this database. And I am just enjoying my time up here. Plus, why would Georg Zimmermann pace the GC group on a stage like this? We've just decided to sit in the wheels, and it might be a bit anti-cyclismo, but that was what I decided to end up doing. Because riders are just being shelled and shelled and shelled. Meanwhile, I must have totally missed this on the post, Tom. Geraint Thomas has attacked again, and that is a key attack in the way this stage ends up playing out. Because look at the gap grow. Immediately, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. A 9-rider chasing group, including Pogacar, make that 8 because Almeida gets dropped. But Thomas now has 4 minutes and 15 seconds over the top of the Col de la Madeleine on his own. Georg Zimmermann still in the second group. Roglic and Vingegaard and all the rest of the GC guys are there as well. We're kind of the polar bear in Arlington, Texas in all of this. But we decide to attack for the mountains points. I don't think I can bridge 4 minutes on the descent, so I just decide to pull the clutch in and make sure that the GC group catches us on the descent. Tiberi, all the while, has been dropped, so that is the main GC competitor to have let go as of now, and then I get a delivery at this point, so I have to pause. Anyway, back we go, and onto the descent. We get caught by the Pogacar Vingegaard group, and that is pretty much all you can call it really. Tiberi's made it back, but how long will he last? He's already shown signs of weakness and is perhaps out of the mind of Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard. Elsewhere, Pogacar is the closest challenger to Biniam Girmay's green jersey, so I decide to go to the front just to take a couple of points away from Tadej Pogacar if possible. We take second at the intermediate sprint, all the while Geraint Thomas is out front with a 2-minute gap, entering the final climb of the day. And once again, we are not going to do any pacing whatsoever. Mikel Landa can do that, Matteo Jorgensen can do that, Joao Almeida can do that as well. We're just going to sit on the back and watch this one unfold from a safe distance. The first rider off the back was Derek G. Lenny Martinez has also gone, and there goes Antonio Tiberi just out of picture there. He has now been dropped, so Tiberi could not hang on for very long. And we've made it already further than I anticipated up this particular climb. Geraint Thomas has now been closed to just 20 seconds, but the catch never gets made, at least not for a long time, because the gap just dangles. Geraint Thomas is happy to keep this group at 20 seconds, perhaps doing the old bait, hanging out an extra rider to see if one of the GC guys wants to attack up to him. In the end, they just say no, give him an extra 30 seconds, and this cycle continues for a fair few kilometres, where Geraint Thomas is just out front on his own, perhaps ready to get caught at any moment by a GC competitor. But Georg Zimmermann is doing a sterling job. He is on his way to a top 10 on the stage if he can hold off the domestiques, who are bound to be dropped because they are working so hard on the front. Joao Almeida, Matteo Jorgensen, and Mikel Landa, who is actually on the back now, but he did a lot of the Valley Road, so there we are. Mikel Landa and Jorgensen are there now at the back, and it's over to Joao Almeida, and he pulls off, and Tadej Pogacar goes, immediately followed by Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard. Once again, the big three cannot keep their noses out of the centre stage, at least in this game. So, Zimmermann decides he's going to stick with Roglic, Ben O'Connor and Enric Mas, 3 riders who are a little bit closer to his level, admittedly still well out of his league. But the group catches up to Geraint Thomas, at least of Pogacar. Pogacar drags Thomas clear of Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard, but they do well to pull him back in, and we are still stuck with Primož Roglic, Ben O'Connor and Enric Mas, kind of hoping that they will drag us as far as possible without throwing a hissy fit at the fact that we have done no work whatsoever. But now Geraint Thomas is out front again. He gets caught by Pogacar. Thomas just doing pure cyclismo attacks at this point. Pogacar finally catches him and drops him. He's got Remco with him, and Jonas Vingegaard has been distanced by the pair. So Vingegaard is now in this weird middle ground where he can't reach Pogacar and Vingegaard at the moment, or sorry, Pogacar and Evenepoel. But now you are watching the front of the race on the main screen, and up in the top corner is the way I am seeing this stage from my POV. Either way, Vingegaard is making his way now up to Remco Evenepoel and Tadej Pogacar. He has bridged the gap, and it is the three riders out front once again. I am nattering now for 15 minutes about one stage, and it is genuinely, there has been no moments where I can take a breather, because Remco Evenepoel attacks, and finally a bit of peace, quiet between the three of them. But not for long, because Jonas Vingegaard is ready to launch another move. He goes on the offensive this time at the front. All the while, Tadej Pogacar is saying thank you for the lead out, guys. They are trying their best to drop the yellow jersey for good after such a difficult road to get back to the peloton at the start of the stage. Pogacar looks like he's flagging now. He is rocking and rolling. He is out of red, but so are the other two riders. This is a pure battle of blue stamina, and who is going to win it? Jonas Vingegaard gets a little bit of red back and tries an attack. Remco Evenepoel looks like he's about to be passed by Jonas Vingegaard, thinks he's dropping Tadej Pogacar, and then boom, there goes Jonas Vingegaard. He has pulled the pin and blown up dramatically. Meanwhile, Remco Evenepoel holds off Tadej Pogacar for the stage win of the most eventful stage you're going to see at least this side of Christmas, because Remco Evenepoel takes the stage OP as anything on the default database, which is the one I am playing on, at least for this. Meanwhile, MVP of the day, perhaps Georg Zimmermann, is going to cross the line with a solid top 10 finish. Geraint Thomas, another contender for MVP of the day, out front on his own for most of the climbs. He finishes 7th on the stage, with Mas 4th, O'Connor 5th, Roglic 6th. We get dropped by the three of them in the final 3 kilometres and just end up crossing the line on our own. And then I can finally take a breather, because holy moly, what a stage that was. And I hope it was worth sharing with you guys, because I genuinely thought this was too good not to put on YouTube. It's a bit of a weird video, and a bit of an impromptu one. We'll be back to the usual My Rider stuff soon. But I had to upload this. I absolutely had to upload this. Remco Evenepoel takes the stage win. Tadej Pogacar leads the general classification. He keeps the yellow jersey somehow, after so much pressure that he just staved off. He warded off at the end of the stage. So there's the result. Remco Evenepoel takes the stage win. We finish a stupendous 8th position on the stage. Only 4 minutes and 9 lost to the big three, which is a fantastic job from Georg Zimmermann. Admittedly, we did have a +2, and a lot of the other guys did not have a +2 or anywhere near that at all. Surprisingly, only 10 riders OTL'd the stage, but this is what it means for the general classification. Tadej Pogacar keeps his lead. Remco Evenepoel and Jonas Vingegaard and Primož Roglic all jump up a place, because Antonio Tiberi has finally lost his podium slot and ends up 14 minutes behind Tadej Pogacar. What a mental stage.